Hello everybody, I'm Dutch and winter is upon us and we're going to talk about how to stay warm in a hammock. So if I seem giddy, it is because we are in the first week of January and we're going to finally get our first winter storm this weekend. So everything is falling in place for me to go out and this is when you want to go hammock camping because you're going to get to be alone on the trail. If you get fresh snow down, you get to see tracks that you know have the wildlife that has just gone through, which could be absolutely amazing. Great time because the sun's going down early. Very likely you're going to probably be by yourself. Great time to build a fire. A fire is going to warm you up twice. Once when you go and you collect the firewood, second time from the heat of the fire. Because the sun's going down so early, you're going to have an extended period of time to really kick back and get away from today's problems. So the first thing I want to talk about is site selection. And this actually is not the best location because we are at the top of a hill. We don't have tremendous winds today, but if this was really windy, I would want to be down the lee side of a mountain. I want something that's going to block the wind. If there happens to be pine trees around, that's great. Any sharp embankment, that would be great also. Anything that is going to keep the wind from stealing your heat. So I'm using a winter tarp here. This is a wide winter tarp. My rule on setting up your tarp is I set it up as high as the weather will allow. If this was really going to be blowing and storming, I'm going to batten this down and I'm going to make it so as little bit of wind can come down in under the tarp to be stealing my warmth away. The winter tarp is really great because I get to close the doors. Pretty much any other time I'm going to be using a rectangle tarp. This is the side entry tarp. This is really great because I get to have some wind blockage, but yet if there's a light sprinkle, I still could be underneath this. I could set up a porch, and yet I can still feel like I am camping in the woods. Since we're going to have some snow, I like to wear my winter gaiters. These things are Gore-Tex and they are going to keep my socks drier. They're going to keep my legs drier and certainly warmer. I don't usually wear gaiters. If I do, they're usually low ones, but come wintertime, it is very important. Moisture management is absolutely critical. So then I'm going to wear my base layer along with my wristies. Then I always like to put on my perfect pouch so that I can keep critical items warm. I need my fleece jacket, and then I like to wear my down jacket on top of that. And finally, I like to wear my gloves, and I switch out my ball cap for my beanie. So a lot of this can be used for camping in general, such as the gloves that I use. I really like to have these over mittens. If you have your fingers together in a mitten, they're gonna stay warmer, but I gotta deal with strings. And I got to be able to get my fingers out and undo stakes and things like that. But then I want to be able to bundle them up inside my mittens. And these things, I've had these things for over 20 years. Except for a time that I picked up a pot that was too hot. These things have totally worked for me through most conditions. I do have a warmer pair, but these things suffice. The wristies, I mentioned about that earlier, but they are a great gap stop here from your jacket to your gloves, and if you have to take off your glove, it's going to keep most of your hand warm should you wind up cooking or something like that, gathering firewood. So your boots. First of all, I'm going to wear a warmer boot for the winter time, something that's going to tend to keep my feet drier. These things they're Gore-Tex, and there's a lot of leather on here and rubber, and they are a high quality winter boot, and I'm going to be swapping these out for what I usually use is a trail runner. But when you go to take off your boots, go and open them up as far as you can, loosen up the laces, because when you get up in the morning or in the middle of the night, you're going to be able to stick your foot into it and you're going to warm that boot up, and then you're going to be able to tighten up the laces. If you can't get your foot in there, you're not going to be able to thaw out the boot, and your laces are going to freeze in the tight position, and it's really going to be a pain in the butt to open them up. That was one of my first lessons because, believe me, I made the mistake of leaving them tight. So water, you're going to need water in the next day, and if there is deep snow, take your water bottle and stick it into the snow, and if it freezes, somehow it doesn't go above freezing in snow. I don't know why that is, but it's true, and if any crystals do form, they're going to float to the top, which is actually the bottom, and then when you go to drink out of it, you're going to have something to drink in the morning. You'll notice I have a metal water bottle. I carry this around only for wintertime, and this actually was from an energy drink, and the reason for this is because I will go and I will warm up water in this, and I will toss this down the bottom of my quilt. Make sure that your cap's on really tight, but because it's in the warmth of your quilt, you're really going to warm up your foot box and your quilt. I also like to put it right here by my leg, because the bloodstream that's running down your leg will keep your entire body warm. You're basically warming up your blood, which is circulating through your body. So a hot water bottle, they make hot water bottles. I like this because it's double duty. I also have a stove set up that I can keep right beside my hammock, and I can pop this out should it wind up losing all of its heat through the night. And in the middle of the night, if I get cold, I can warm this up, and you're not going to be cold if you have a hot water bottle in your quilt under 99% of the situations. So another thing I like to do is I like to have a sit pad of some type, and I'll keep that right beside my hammock, and should I wind up having a cold spot or something, you can always toss that in there and get a little bit of extra warmth. Now let's talk about how to stay warm sleeping in a hammock. So the first thing before I go to bed is I want to eat something, preferably a warm meal, because that's certainly going to help warm me up. And if it's really cold and I'm afraid of being cold, I'll often do something that is going to exert some energy. Jumping jacks comes to mind, but you want to get that body heat a little bit. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about is moisture management, because there's different types of moisture, and getting wet is not going to help you out at all. So we're going to go, and I'm going to switch from my boots. You're going to want dry feet when you go to bed. Another pair of socks is absolutely ideal. Then I switch to my booties. If my pants are wet, I want to change them out. Hopefully they are not wet, and hopefully I have something else to wear. At least have my undergarments that are going to be full length. There are people that are going to tell you to sleep naked and you'll keep warmer, and those people are wrong. Okay, the more layers you have, the better, but what you got to do is remember to stay dry. So if you wear your rain gear, you'll sweat and then you'll become wet, and that is not going to help you. But a down jacket is only going to be another layer, and those people that think that sleeping naked keeps you warmer are thinking that because they think that the quilt or your sleeping bag is keeping you warm, but the truth is that you are keeping the sleeping bag warm. So the more layers you have on, the better you are, and you can always shed layers. Please note the perfect pouch. The reason for the perfect pouch is so that I can take my phone, my battery packs, even my water filter. If I'm using a water filter, make sure you put that into a baggie, but I can keep that right here in my chest, and that is exactly what this was invented for. I first thought about how I could put a pocket onto my quilt, and I was like, I really want to keep it close to my body. So we made this so it stays right on your chest, and if that stuff is going to freeze there, then you're in trouble, more trouble than just having a dead phone. So anything that's dry, I generally sleep with, particularly if it's going to be brutally cold. And I try to have things that I'm going to be able to swap out. Socks is going to be a big one. I don't usually have another pair of pants, but I will take off these outer pants and have my tights on that are underneath there. So now we get to talk about sleeping in a hammock at night, and this is really where the chameleon shines. We got zip-on insulation, so I could swap out and put my 0 degree quilt on for this, when it comes to the bottom quilt, you want to have your warmest insulation under you. I like to be 10 degrees under what the forecast is at the very least. It is more important than the insulation on top of you. The top of you, I can put other layers on, but if you're getting cold from underneath, you're in trouble. So I like to keep, if it's going to be 10 degrees, I want a 0 degree quilt. This one happens to be a 20 degree quilt, and that should do just fine for this weekend. And then I'm swapping out the bug net for a winter top cover. And this is really essential for keeping warmth in. And we can even take that further. I can even put a sock around the whole hammock, which is just another layer between you and the outside world, keeping you warmer, keeping the air off you, and keeping your body heat in. Then there's the whole world of moisture management. When people email me and they say, hey, I had a problem with condensation, I cannot help that. It is you that has to manage your own condensation, because these situations are so variable on the humidity in the air, the amount that you put off. Did you put on dry clothing? Did you remove any layers that would prevent moisture from leaving your body? And then there's the main cause of moisture, and that is your breath. So I want to talk a little bit about how to manage your breath. I actually use my breath to keep me warm, but I have to go and keep in mind that getting wet is not going to keep me warm. So one of the beautiful things about the Moonlight top cover on the winter cover, I'm going to keep this open so that you can see me, but I can vent this to whatever level I want. If I want to completely remove this panel, I can. But if it's dry and it's cold, I can completely batten down the hatches and make it so this is completely closed off, so that I keep more of my body heat inside this hammock. And your face is an area that you really want to be able to keep warm. And I can tell you a couple things on that. One is I wear a beanie, and the beanie I'll pull down over my eyes, and that way not only am I getting darkness, but I can cover up all the way down to my nose with the right beanie. I also will use a balaclava or maybe a neck gaiter or something like that. A buff also works really well. But I'm going to have my down booties already on, and then I'm going to go, and I got my top quilt. And you have to be careful with this, but what I like to do is I keep this side vented. I want you to imagine, I want to be able to talk to you, so I'm going to leave it up. But imagine this is zipped shut, and I got a nice vent so that my breath can go out to the outside and along with all the moisture. But I don't want my face getting cold, and I'm not going to be able to cover up. If I cover up with something such as put a neck gaiter up over my face, it's going to get wet. But you pull your quilt right up over your head, and you can see that a quilt can kind of keep its shape. Now my air is going to be going outside the hammock, and that's what you want. But yet the space that's all around me is going to be warmed up not only by my head, but also the whole rest of my body. Remember, I got a hot water bottle in here, so that's producing heat. My whole body is producing heat, and this is going to keep my face warm, which is really going to help me get a good night's sleep. Then along that time, I'm also going to have a stove here that I can go and maybe warm up some hot cocoa or something if I really do get cold. But more likely, I'm just going to go and warm up some hot water and throw that down the bottom of the sleeping bag. Another advantage to this is because you did that, you're going to have thawed water in the morning, so you're going to have something to drink. And also, it's great because you don't have to get out of the hammock, because who wants to get out of the hammock in the very morning and make yourself some coffee or something of that nature? So that is some of the keys that I like to use for when I go hammock camping. So for me, Wintertime is the best time to go camping, and as long as you can stay warm, you're gonna really get to enjoy the solitude. I really like it when there's a fresh snow. You see it pile up on the branches. You get to see more wildlife because the leaves are off the trees. You get to see the tracks they left behind. And these are some of the tips that I use when I go out. But I bet some of you out there in the community have other tips that you could share that could help other people to get out and really enjoy this time of year. With that, thank you, everybody.